friends, welcome back to Crows Before Bros. This is a bookish YouTube channel that I run with my friend Lauren where we yell about books on the internet. A quick check-in, my January was way slower for reading than I have been in a long time. I finished 4 books this month, which is still a lot, and I'm trying to have grace for myself, but I mostly spent the month like switching jobs and playing Persona 5, so less books than normal for me, but that is okay. So this month I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, Three Body Problem, which Lauren and I talked about in our last Buddy Reads video, and The No-Show by Beth O'Leary. And the last book I read is the topic of today's video, Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Lynn. I'm likely going to keep this one pretty spoiler free, and I'll explain why in a second here. Daughter of the Moon Goddess is about 500 pages. It's Lynn debut novel, the first in a duology, and it is a fantasy book with like a splash of romance in there. It also reads as a bit of a young adult book. It follows main character Xing Yin, who is, as you may be able to guess, the daughter of the Moon Goddess.
Wow.
I've seen this book touted as a retelling of the Chinese myth of Chang'e and Hu Yi, who are Chinese who lights the moon at night. Hu Yi was her husband who slew these 9 sons. There's a few variations of this myth. The story that this book tells is that Chang'e was pregnant and had to steal Hu Yi's vial of immortality that had been gifted to him to save herself and save her daughter. For this crime of stealing this vial of immortality, she is then imprisoned on the moon to live out the rest of her days, or I guess, she's immortal. So like, to live forever, lighting the moon for the mortal people. She's also overseen a little bit by the Celestial Kingdom. However, this is kind of where that bit of the Chinese mythology ends. So if you're getting into this because you wanted that mythology retelling, that's not really what this book is. It's just kind of the background for the main character Xing Yin, who is the daughter of Chang'e. That's who we're following throughout the book. So near the beginning of the story, we see Xing Yin attempt to use this magic that has been growing within her that her mother has warned her against using. This summons some of the Celestial Kingdom to come check in on Chang'e because they're like, unauthorized people here, that's not allowed. And Xing Yin is whisked away by their family attendant and gets lost in the Celestial Kingdom along the way. She ends up staying as an attendant with this horrible rich family, and it is in their gardens that she runs into a young man who's very kind to her, makes her laugh, and he invites her to attend a competition because he is the prince of the Celestial Kingdom, and the winner of this competition would get to train alongside him and study with him and be his personal attendant. Very shockingly, she wins this competition, and that's kind of where our story takes off, with Xing Yin settling into palace life, navigating court politics. She moves her way through the army's ranks and becomes their first archer. She is secretly trying to get her mom's autonomy back, and in doing that, she has to bargain with the king multiple times. She has to deal with court politics. She's slaying monsters. She's going on quests. So the reason that this is going to be mostly spoiler free is because this book is massive in scope. I really don't have the capacity in a single video to go over each of these main plot points because there's just a lot that happens. I think that if this book were fleshed out a bit more, that this could have been multiple books just from this one, not even counting the sequel to it. If the writing had allowed us to sit in some of these circumstances a bit more, I think this probably would have been just like a massive book. There really are a lot of plot points throughout that I think, wow, if that's going to be the main thing, this is what she's going to do to try and rescue her mom. And she'd beat that, and then it immediately go into another plot quest that she has to go on. It really felt to me like a video game where you kind of complete one quest and you're like, okay, nice, I did it. And immediately someone walks up to you and they're like, new quest for you, do the thing. And that just happens over and over and over again for 500 pages. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just not what I expected going into this. I really did enjoy the plot, though it did suffer from some pacing problems. There were times where they'd talk about, we're gonna go fight these dragons, and they'd talk about it, and they'd travel, and they'd make plans, and then the fight would last like half a chapter. It felt a little anticlimactic at times, but it was still enjoyable. So there is a wide cast of characters around Xingyin, especially because this is a book that deals with court politics. So we see the rulers of the Celestial Kingdom and the neighboring kingdoms and her friends who are attendants and all these things. But really, I would say the main ones other than Xingyin are Li Wei, who is the crown prince slash her sparring partner slash her classmate slash her best friend turned will they won't they love interest. And then there's also Wang Zi, who is the captain of the guard. He's who promotes her to first archer, and he also makes a very clear love interest option as well. There's a very obvious love triangle that forms here, which leads into one complaint I have about this book, which is that every male who sees her is just like immediately in love. She goes to like another court and she meets their prince, and he pretty much is like, wow, I love you so much right away. Everyone just kind of suddenly is in love with her. I felt like sometimes I was like, I don't really care about this. However, I did grow to care about the two main love interests, which is interesting for me. I don't usually go for a love triangle very much, but I really liked both of these leading men. There is a lot of angst around this relationship though, and this feeds into the fact that it does feel like a young adult novel. She's immortal, so there's not like necessarily an age range that makes sense, but she reads as like a young girl, maybe 17, 18, 19, and she has this love triangle. She's an archer. She has to take down corrupt governments. It's very YA fantasy. I think my main complaint about this love interest is that it kind of feels like they just happen to Xingyin, who never once has a romantic thought about a man unless they literally confess their love to her very directly. Wow, look at my best friend Li Wei. He's so good at being my friend and being supportive, and I love being his friend in a very platonic way.
Xingyin, surely you must know that I've always been in love with you.
Wow, I love my romantic partner, who I've always had romantic, non-platonic feelings for. We were never friends. It's a good thing that I have my very platonic, not at all romantic friend Wang Zi, or else this would be complicated.
Surely you must know how I feel about you after all this time. Run away with me and be my bride.
Wow, the absolutely romantic, non-platonic love of my life, Wang Zi. Man, this really complicates things. I think maybe I would have felt more conflicted about this love triangle if I, as a reader, had been allowed to sit with these characters a bit more. Because there was so much plot happening, it felt like I didn't always get to just like sit and simmer in who these characters are and watch their relationships develop like I would have liked to. That being said, what really sells this book is Su Lin Tan's gorgeous writing. Usually when books are in first person, I don't love the writing. I often find that first person books feel a little juvenile and a little weak on world building. It's all about how the main character feels and less about what's happening in their world. But I don't think Su Lin Tan fell victim to that. She did a gorgeous job of making this world feel so real and so tangible to the reader. It is just such lush, gorgeous, lyrical imagery. While I wish we could have sat a bit more with some characters and gone into more depth on plot, Su Lin Tan really lets the reader sit and sink into these settings and environments that her characters are in. It really let you breathe in this very real feeling world. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed Daughter of the Moon Goddess. I would give it a 4 out of 5 stars. I really loved the lush writing. I enjoyed the characters. I just wish we'd got to sit a bit more with some of those relationships developing and with some of the plot points. I am interested to see what happens in the second book, which I do plan to read, mostly because it feels like at the end of this book, everything feels pretty resolved. It feels like everything's doing pretty good for her. I think a lot of books will end on a cliffhanger to bring you to the next book, but this book didn't necessarily do that. It just kind of felt like, well, things are actually pretty decent. There's like one unresolved thing that's obviously going to blossom into a bigger issue, but for the most part, things are pretty good. I find myself really hoping for a redemption arc for, you guessed it, the morally gray villain. I think it's probably a bit of a lost cause. A girl can dream, but it is like a YA feeling fantasy. There's like very clearly, you know, good and bad, and so I might just be hoping for nothing. Have you read Daughter of the Moon Goddess? What were your thoughts? I'm very interested. I know a lot of people super loved this book. It is just so like beautiful. Comment below with your thoughts or give me other fantasy recs. I feel like I'm in something of a fantasy era. I'm finally starting a Conjuring of Light, which I think I talked about doing in like November on this channel. Whoops. But I've just been really enjoying fantasy again, and so trying to let myself settle into some of that. Beyond that, I'm also trying to start Finley Donovan is Killing It again, and I think I might just DNF it for now. This is the third time I'm trying to read it, and I like it. I just can't seem to buy into it enough. I don't know why. I have no reason. But yeah, do all the normal YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe. We love you guys. We love chatting with you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!